Welcome to the council meeting for the 10th of December 2025. I will open with karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia ma kina ki uta, kia ma taratara ki tai. E hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hohu, tihei, Māori ora. Okay, working through here, are there any apologies today? With everyone being present, I would think no. And just for the meeting today, later on there is a paper on conflicts and interests. And just noting, are there any conflicts of interest that anyone needs to declare today with the papers we have in front of us? There being none. Identification of extraordinary business. I have had notification of an item to discuss that will happen in public excluded, so we will have that item later this afternoon. And we will move shortly on to public forum. And so we're very lucky today. We have people along to speak to us from public forum. We have 2 presenters in public forum and then 2 presentations from a committee and a community project. And so first up, I would like to invite Sue Boyd to public forum. Sue would like to talk on rates and Orion's investment proposal. Please take a seat. So I know, please. It feels so strange being so far away, doesn't it? Yes, it does feel a long way away. I acknowledge that. But we are here. So today is a chance for you to speak to us about any concerns or things that we should know about and the topic that you have provided for us. As per standing orders, there is 5 minutes there, and for councillors it's questions at the end for points of clarification, and then we will discuss actions at the end of the public meeting. So if you push the right hand button there on the microphone, it will light up red, and then please take away when you feel ready.
Okay, I suppose really I've come actually with a question regarding the rates, just with a lot of the information that's being talked about as far as the cost of our rates and things that I've been reading on council things in the papers that come out and some of your blogs that I listen to or read. So I really, it's been indicated that the council will look at how to reduce rates for the coming rates year in July. And I would like to ask the council to clarify a point in regard to this. Because the charging of water and wastewater is to be by a separate body, the Selwyn Water Limited, this charge will no longer be included in the rates demand. Is this going to be what the council sees as a reduction in rates? If so, I see this as very misleading, so I want a clarification on that point, because I sort of think, well, that's going to show a reduction in rates, but it's not actually, because it will be still a separate account, which is still part of rates. And I suppose I'm speaking as a person on a fixed income. I don't get, very little, the government adjustment in the middle of the year that superannuitants get. So living on a fixed income with the 2 of us, I just want to know how that will be managed if the increase is still going to be, or the decrease would be only because the water rates have come out. So that's one point I want to ask and clarify. And then the other thing is, with the Orion proposal that they have put out, I'm aware that the council has part ownership of Orion, and I know that Orion is putting a proposal in for an increase or some funding over the next 5 years for a lot of infrastructure and other things that they're wanting to do. I'm concerned that even though the information they put out wasn't very clear on what their actually amounts, other than the very large amounts that they're asking for, but again, our electricity prices keep going up and our fixed daily charges have still not stopped going up, and they will still, I think we've got another year of increase in that. And for those of us who made provision for our retirement by working with solar, we actually are paying more per day for our fixed daily charges than we are for the amount of electricity that we use. And then to have our Orion then put some more on that, it's like, where are people meant to find the funding for this? And I think it needs to be very cautious in how much Orion expects for the people who are using electricity to keep funding, because the public do not have bottomless pockets. So those are the two things I wanted to state my thoughts on and some clarification on. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate your time today. I think Steve might like to talk to this also. It's around the rates and the billing, and you talked about actually they will be separate. So drinking and wastewater will be removed from your rates demand, and it will be delivered separately. And so the rates reduction that we are talking about giving, or the percentage increase reduction that maybe you've seen the news articles that you're referring to, are actually on the things that we do have sitting with us at council now. So they are separate. So we are not relying on drinking and wastewater being removed from your council rates demand to deliver a decrease for you. I hope that clarifies. And Steve, please, if there's any more clarification needed on that.
No, thank you, and thanks, Sue, for that presentation. I think the key point to note for the community, because I think it's a great question for those watching today and here today, is that Council are currently reviewing our entire operating budget, and through the next annual plan process, this Council will determine what a draft budget is to go to consultation in the community in late March. And that consultation period will be about 6 weeks, so that the community can see the detail about what are the proposed rate reduction opportunities and what are the levels or what are the impacts on the range of services and projects and activities that council does, so that the community can then say we support or we do not support those reductions. So that will be in the public, and council will then make a decision towards the end of June next year about setting the next rates charges. So I think that you'll get enough clarity over the next 3 to 4 months about where some of those savings are coming from, what does that mean for the community, and how you get a chance to have a say in that.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for clarification? And first up I have Elizabeth.
Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to clarify, you're talking about rates reductions. What does that mean to you? What are you hoping to get from the council with the next decision? Is it a reduction on your current rate, or is it when we increase the rates, we increase it less than what was previously promised?
Yes, I'm more looking at the reduction would be what was previously said, because we've had double digits this year, and the next rates year is, I haven't got the figures in front of me, but I think it was meant to be pretty much the same, if not more. So I would like to see that it was at least reduced on what was planned. Certainly, it would, as much as that is able, it would be of benefit. So does that help you? And yeah, I realise there has to be some increases, but I suppose some of the thing I feel is that some of the comments that were talked of in your campaigns is that the council needs to stick to its core services, and those are the things that we as a community expect of a council, but I think there are things that don't need to be part of council business and council revenue to expect of people to pay.
Thank you. So
So,
that provides quite a lot of clarity in there. And we'll just go one more question, Denise.
Oh, it's not really a question. Thanks, Sue, so much for coming and speaking to us so clearly, and for reminding us what we stood for when we were campaigning. And I have tried to get the figures out of the Selwyn Water Company, and they are promising to get those figures to us early next year, because I completely see where you're coming from with your questions.
Yeah.
But so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, because I did follow things very closely, and I was personally, my husband and I were pleased to see the changes that have happened, so I'm expecting a lot of you guys.
Thank you, Sue. We appreciate that. Okay, next up we have Zoran Rakovic to come and talk about rates cap. Welcome, Zoran. When you are ready, please push the right-hand button. It will glow red, and take it away when you're ready.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Madam Mayor and councillors. Firstly, congratulations on your election and re-election. It's a serious commitment to put your name forward, and an even greater one to be entrusted with public office. Having stood myself, I know the level of effort, scrutiny, and community engagement required. I also had the pleasure of meeting a few of you on the campaign trail, and I genuinely wish you all the best in your work ahead. I'm here today not as a critic, but as an advocate, one who continues to speak for the residents of Selwyn, including many who feel unheard and some who sit around this table, because you too are ratepayers, and you know the pressure we are under. In that spirit, I want to gently remind you of something many of you, including me, campaigned on, a commitment to reduce rates increases, or at the very least ease the burden on households already stretched by rising costs. That promise mattered, people heard it, and people are now waiting. Selwyn's growth has been remarkable, but growth without restraint can become a liability. The feeling on the ground from Lincoln to Leeston, from Rolleston to Springfield, is that rates are rising faster than incomes, and that the trade-offs are no longer clear or fair. But you have the ability to act, not in 6 months, not after a dozen strategy workshops, but today. At this very meeting, one of you could move a motion requesting staff to develop a pathway toward targeted rates relief. It's not binding, it's not reckless, it's a starting point, a signal to our community that you meant what you said. I've brought here a draft of such a motion with me, and I'd be happy to make it available. It's written simply, and it leaves the details to staff and due process. What matters is the direction. It's time we ask not what can be spent, but what must be spent, and what can be left in the people's pockets. I appreciate the challenges you face, balancing services, infrastructure, expectations. It's not easy. But leadership isn't just about managing what is, it's about shaping what could be. Today is an opportunity to begin that shaping. Thank you for your time, your service, and your willingness to hear from the community. Ngā mihi nui.
Thank you, Zoran. I appreciate the time that you've put into writing that and coming to talk to us today. Are there any questions of clarification? And first up is Elizabeth.
Hi, Zoran. Thank you for that. The first question I have is around what do you feel is the most productive way for us as council to come to you as one of the members of public to get some direction about where you'd like us to prioritise? Because we have the annual plan and the long-term plan submission process. Do you feel you can wait that long, or is there a when we do that process, because there's many different ways that council approach community, what do you feel personally would be the best?
Well, I think if there is intent to deal with it, and there may well be, by looks of it, I think it would be helpful if a council makes a public statement that you intend to, or if something's in place, or wheels are already in motion, so people don't feel that, elections are over and you're seated comfortably with a cup of tea and, and people have forgotten. If you make a public statement that that's underway, I think that will bring some relief in the community and we'll feel that things are being dealt with and that something is going to happen. And if there's a timeline, even better. And from what I heard in the previous presentations, comments, it seems that it's already underway, that looking to the budget is underway. And if you just tell us, put an article in Selwyn News, I think everybody will appreciate it and will love you for it.
Thank you. My second point of clarification is we have received a broad statement from the government about what fits under the capped rates, what is core business. In your mind, what is core business for council?
What I campaigned on, roads, rubbish and pipes.
So what about libraries, community centres, sports fields, those kind of
with the
additional
consultation of the community, that comes in as well. But when you look at the core, what must be done, regardless of whatever community thinks, is road, rubbish and pipes. And then with the community consultation, well, if we want to read books and have libraries, we'll tell you and we'll pay for it.
Thank you.
Ratepayers.
Hi, Zora.
Hello, Samuel.
Would you mind reading your draft to us?
Right, I printed it in small print and I forgot my reading glasses, so I think I'll read it. A formal motion to initiate amendment of the long-term plan. That the council resolve to initiate the process for amending the long-term plan pursuant to section 93(4) of the Local Government Act 2002 in order to address concerns regarding rates increases, as informed by community feedback emerging from the recent election cycle. In support of this amendment, the Council directs the Chief Executive to prepare a consultation document in accordance with Section 93D, which must include a description of the proposed changes aimed at moderating rate increases, reasons for the amendment, including references to community priorities for financial sustainability, principal options and their implications, such as potential reductions in a non-essential expenditure and alignment of rates with inflation levels, any additional content required under Section 93E if the amendment involves significant decisions under Section 97. Ensure that adoption of supporting information, including forecasting assumptions and financial impacts as required by Section 93G. Commence the special consultation procedure under Section 93(5) and Section 93 to facilitate public submissions and hearings, ensuring compliance with consultation principles in Section 92. I think I'm reading these correctly, but it's a bit blurred in my... This amendment aligns with the Act's purpose in Section 10 to promote the social and economic well-being of the community through responsive decision-making, and the principle in Section 14, which emphasizes awareness of and having regard to community views, prudent resource stewardship, and efficient outcomes. And the cheeky one, Chief Executive Officer is to ensure that the amended long-term plan is published on plain paper in black and white and perhaps grey, without extravagant graphics, images, or formatting, to align its production with cost-saving efforts proposed by the amendment.
Thank you, Zora.
Last one, Denise.
Hi, Zora.
Hello, Denise.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
We missed you towards the end of the campaign when you went away. Thank you. I don't really have a question either, but thank you for reading out your amendment. And thank you again, like Sue, for reminding us of why we were elected. I think it's really good for us to keep that in mind. And I think Lydia probably will speak to what is happening going forwards. So thank you.
Thank you all for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
I just remind councillor that public forum isn't decision-making process. It is, we do discuss this at the end of the public meeting, and the actions that we take forward in response to our public forum today. This time is for questions for clarification, and so Sophie.
Yeah, kia ora, Zoran.
Beg your pardon.
Are you aware of the cost involved in consulting on a long-term plan amendment separately to an annual plan?
I understand there is a cost, but it's compared to the benefit to the community. If you went out and had a survey, I believe, in my heart, I can't substantiate it with statistical data or a poll, that people would accept the cost if the result would be moderation to the double-digit increases. So if you said that it's going to cost 200,000 to do consultation, and but we're going to look at 5% instead of 14% increases, I strongly believe that you will have support from the community.
Okay. It would be helpful for discussion later if we could have some information on how much that might be, if we were going to consider that.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a substantial amount because there are auditing fees required for a long-term plan amendment, and actually what we are trying to do, and this probably leans into a little bit of what Sue has said, and so I am stepping outside of the remit of standing orders at the current space, so please forgive me for that. Through our annual plan process, we are looking to identify a whole lot of cost savings for council. So we will be setting the annual plan budget for next year, so that is our next financial operating year. And through that process, there are a lot of things that will come out that are actually for the long-term plan. And so the preference is that those are parked for the long-term plan, so that we do not trigger a long-term plan amendment, because it incurs severe cost to our community, and we have been elected on a cost-saving basis. So there is a smarter way to do things, but we can deliver savings on what the projected outcomes or increases were through an annual plan process without triggering a long-term plan amendment. And so that is the plan and the wheels that are in motion for us in this current day-to-day. The work is underway. So we are over time in public forum, but I thank you very much for that, and you will get a formal response from us as well.
Thank you very much.
Zoran. Okay, next up we have the Castle Hill Community Grid and Solar Project, and so I look forward to an update from you of how this is going. It has been a few months since we have heard from you. I think you are all still aware of the process in this, and so because this is a presentation to council and we have put all this at the start of our meeting, there is extended time available for you. So we have 15 minutes. That includes questions for this as well, but I really look forward to hearing your update. So right hand button, yeah.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Helena Parsons tōku ingoa. It's my very great pleasure to introduce 3 community groups from the Craigieburn Basin area. The Castle Hill Community Association, the Castle Hill Community Energy Project. We've been working closely with STC over the last couple of years. And then finally the Craigieburn Basin Restoration Trust.
My name's Rick Hill. I'm chair of the Community Association, and Castle Hill has been a regular attender at council meetings. It's an active community association, and I thought I'd just try and set out some of the things that are happening briefly. Hopefully Rachel, our vice chair, is able to join by Teams, but unfortunately she couldn't get away from work. Castle Village has recently completed a strategic plan, and one of the things that came out very positively was the importance to the village of having a safe environment with a strong community. And the Community Association is well represented. We've got over 2/3 of the houses in the village are represented by the members of the association. We've now got 184 houses with 18, at my count, permanent residents. We've got regular newsletters. We've got council facilities like the hall and the tennis court, which are used extensively. We've got 22 on the community response team and 15 on the fire team. So it's a community that's involved in the environment that we're up there. There is also a real focus on the environment and what happens there. So if you look, we've got a group that's liaising with DOC that runs the mountain bike trails. And if you go back in history to when Castle Hill was first dreamed of, it was to be a mountain village with skiing and ice skating at its heart. Nowadays, it's a village that is very active in the outdoors, with extensive mountain bike trails used by people from all over Canterbury and New Zealand and the world. We've got people that are actively tramping, going out, doing wilding pine removal. And so some of the groups that are there, we've got the Trails Group, we've got WELRA, which is the Waimak Environmental Trust, which is principally focusing on wilding pines. We've got the Fire Recovery Trust, who'll talk to you later. We've got the Craigieburn Trapping Alliance. And, you know, the current hoo-ha about cats. Last year they caught 22 feral cats inside the village. And these cats are not small. I had one on my webcam up there. The cats are this big. They are, yes. We've got other activities that happen. Many of you will have been to the Castle Hill Art Weekend. And we've got one of the members of the community's decided to become a music promoter. So he in his own house regularly, once a year, has great events. The last one I was able to go to was Mel Parsons, and the one before, the most recent one was, I'm trying to think who it was. Holly Arrowsmith, yes. So the environmental issues are important to us, as are the community activities, and we're grateful for what support the council's able to give us. So that's a brief summary of where we're at, and I think we've got a committed community, and we're, as I say, grateful for the help from Selwyn. Now introduce Kate, who's going to talk about the energy project.
Kia ora tātou, koutou, sorry. Kate Hodgins, and I'm here with Helena and Dave, who are the core members of the Castle Hill Community Energy Project. I'll just see if I can get this on. So just a little bit of background for those of you who, who haven't really had any familiarity with the project. We've been going since about May 2024. We've been part of a community energy activator, which was originally set up through Orion Energy, Araaki, and the Community Energy Network. We're the only Selwyn project of the 8 projects that were there. And since then, we've been working pretty closely with council and also with the community to try and meet our objectives. And our main objectives from the project have always really been to build resilience for the basin. As many of you will know, Castle Hill Village is the main civil defence hub for the area. We sit within the AF8 zone, and obviously we're a high alpine area, so we're a bit prone to disasters, as you'll know, through fire and flooding. When the passes close, we could expect to have up to a couple of thousand people stuck up there, so the village has to be able to respond to meet any requirements that we have there. So, as well as having a resilient solution, we also wanted to build something that was going to be sustainable, to fit with the ethos of the area, and where possible, cost neutral, something that pays for itself, doesn't sort of sit in a shed and do nothing. So where we are today, just really to give you a pretty brief summary of this, we are currently focused on the Hall, which is the main civil defence hub. and we're going to be putting solar with a battery backup on the hall. We hope that during business as usual times, this will also help to support the street lighting in the village as well. And then when there's an emergency, the plan is that this will switch and will create its own island, and will basically be able to then support the emergency response that's required there. So we've managed to secure funding through the ICA CREF fund, the Community Resilience Emergency Fund. And I have to say, we have huge thanks to Joe Gentlecore, who is your climate change lead at Selwyn, who has been absolutely instrumental in helping us secure this money. And also to Orion Energy, who will be are funding a feasibility study, which is an important part of the project, because it will help us adequately size the battery for the emergency response, which is not as easy as you might have imagined, and also will help us to future-proof the project, because we see this as being phase one of hopefully building more resilience into the village. So really, from our perspective, this is going to be happening in the next year, this first phase, and what we would like the council to take away and consider over the next while is what will happen with future revenue streams from the village battery project. Ideally, we would like to see those funds be ring-fenced so that they can be focused on emergency response and resilience funding for the basin. And really, we just want to pass on our thanks to all the people who've been supporting us so far, and particularly council for supporting the project. And I'm passing on now to
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Catherine Ross tōku ingoa. Just move these slides through. Okay, so I'm a trustee for the Craigieburn Basin Restoration Trust. It's quite an auspicious day today. I think we're at the anniversary of the Bridge Hill fire, which you'll all remember from last year. And our group, came out of that fire. So I've got apologies. I should have with me Anna Hill, who's the chair of our trust, who is a member of the Upper Waimakariri Pastoral Group, which is the local catchment group. Shortly after the fire, a few days after the fire, I got a call from Anna and other members of the catchment group to ask them to help think through how they could help in any response and any restoration after the fire. When we had that meeting, we quickly concluded that it wasn't something that one small group of people could respond to, that any response and any recovery plan needed to be done in partnership with a whole lot of groups. And so we and that Selwyn District Council, ECAN, DOC, all really important parties, along with a whole raft of others. After a little bit of I'll say argy-bargy, we managed to get together a group of stakeholders, including STC and representatives from the Castle Hill Village Association and the various groups that were there. And we had a really successful stakeholder day early April. And I think it was an interesting day. People were nervous. There was a group of people who don't usually come together and don't usually have the conversations that we had that day. But I think everyone left feeling that there was much more in common than people had expected. And when we went through a process of coming up with a 100-year vision, I think there was surprise and delight that basically everybody ended up in the same place. And the vision that we've got up there, promoting and advancing the protection and restoration of Indigenous ecosystems, biodiversity and landscapes in the Craigieburn Basin, was really where we landed. We had people suggesting that we'd bring back the moa, and it was a fun day. And from that, we have, the trust was already established, but we've enriched the trust, we've added to the trustees, and we've come up with a number of 5-year goals that they're there, so I won't run through them. Perhaps the most important aspect of it, and it's something that's, well, two things. One, that strong partnerships are the way to deliver change, and that strong partnerships are formed from great conversations. They take time and they take courage. The other thing that perhaps comes through strongly for me, and I think most of the group, and has come through from the earlier discussions, is that we're in an environment of scarce resourcing. There isn't a lot of money to go around. So how do we collectively work together to deliver the greatest impact with the scarce resources that we have? So that's our way of working. We're trying to work in a way which is really open, transparent, everyone's invited, and we're working to create strong foundations so that we're around for a long time. We've only been going since really April, and this is just a list of the things that we've done. We're at the early stages, obviously, but we have done some practical things on the ground. We've done some seed trials. We're working with the SDC, and it's mainly SDC, hopefully ECAN as well, but working with ECAN SDC to collect baseline data so that we have a real understanding of what is the state of the land now, post-fire, and what happens what happens over future years, and what is the impact of various interventions that we have. We've proposed, I think I've written to Meg Glidden and others around a proposal for an environmental information federated data pilot sitting in the Craigieburn Basin, feeds off work that the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment is doing. We're wanting to take a really informed approach to the work that we do. So hoping that we come and talk with you again and that Anna is here, but really just wanted to give an introduction to the work that we're doing.
Thank you. That's, really informative. I have seen your email, and I've just been having some, would probably think about side conversations to how I might be able to help in that space. And I was thinking that, the map series that the Upper Waimakariri Pastoral Group has produced as part of Y Connection would be quite helpful, looking at what your baseline data looks like. And that I'm sure that you're aware, but the ECAN's funding has opened, and I would definitely be encouraging you to get a good funding proposal in there, because effectively that is what those funds are designed for, is to help you with exactly what you want to do in that project. But that will open up for some questions, noting time. So Elizabeth, you're up first.
Hi. Trial seed and seedlings that are potted up. Is this all done by local volunteers, and are you using the local seed off the existing trees, or are you buying in seeds from elsewhere, and how does that look on the ground?
So all of the seeds are eco-sourced, so all locally sourced. Really lucky that Flock Hill Station has an eco-sourced nursery. We're partnering with them. The trials that we've got are using different ways of seeding. So we're using duff, which is a collection of leaf litter. As part of that trial, we've got actual seedlings, we've got seeds, and they're all fenced off. So we're trying to understand what is the most effective way of regenerating forest, bush.
Sure. And are you relying on local volunteers to do your plantings in the future, or at presently?
All of the work we've done is on a voluntary basis, except there is one person from Flock Hill, Anna, who has been able to use some of her paid time to support the trust. But all my time, everybody else's time is voluntary. We can't continue that way. So one of our, I haven't got it up, marketing pitches I've got up there. We are putting together documents that we will take to hopefully private investors. We know we need money to carry on in the way we are.
Thank you. Tracy.
I haven't got a question. I just want to thank you and also just comment on the fact that you are thinking 100 years ahead, and that that kind of thinking is really difficult for a lot of small groups, communities, sports. A lot of people are just trying to think about keeping the organisation or the work going for the next day, week or year, let alone being able to look into the future. From a council point of view, having community groups who are looking that far ahead is really useful for us in our planning and decision making. So thank you all.
Can I just make a comment?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I guess one of the things that we're hoping is that we do develop a shared vision with the councils, and that some of the things that we're proposing are actually led by councils, and they shouldn't be volunteer-led. Just an observation.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you're very aware that everything is very up in the air for us at the moment around what we are delivering with RMA reforms, local government reorganisation. Everything is a little up in the air, so it is a little bit hard to commit an ongoing, what does this look like for us? But that is definitely something that we need to work through with our community, what the implications and what this looks like for us. Yeah. Denise.
Hi, I'm on the community grants panel, and we did look at your 2 proposals just recently, and we were really impressed with what was proposed. And so we will, I'm just letting you know that we will have a result to your application very soon. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Denise. There've been no other questions. Look, I really thank you for the time that you've all put into coming down and catching up with us, and I look forward to, you'll get a response from us. I know that there's that question asked around the funds from the solar, and so we'll have a response for you of what that looks like, and I'm sure that you'll continue to work with Joe on implementation of projects. Yeah, so thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate your time. I can get Joe to come back to you because he's part of that. Wonderful. Next up, I would like to invite our Sister City Committee. Welcome Alison and welcome Judith, and we have our MCB representative here as well, Samantha Samuel, to the Sister City Committee. Wonderful. Welcome ladies. We appreciate the time that you've given us to give an update on Sister City activities. We do have, your presentation has been loaded into or your notes have been loaded into our agenda documents today, so we have read those.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Konnichiwa. Ni men hao. Salament sore. Hello. I have greeted you in the languages of Selwyn District Council's sister cities. First of all, congratulations to all of you on being elected. It's nice to be able to actually come and speak to you today. I'm Alison Rosanowski. I've been chairperson of Selwyn Council's Sister City Committee for, shall we say, a number of years. And beside me is Judith Pascoe, who is one of the deputy chairpersons, who was a former Melbourne Community Board member. So she comes with a vast amount of experience as well. Selwyn has 5 sister city relationships, and please know that sister city relationships are about people to people. They were established, initially sister cities around the world were established in 1947 after the Second World War by President Eisenhower as a peace-type mission. They are council relationships, and the mana of the relationships absolutely is dependent on the support from this council and the support of the staff that give to this voluntary committee. I've given the names there, but we'll talk about each one in turn. So we'll move first to Akatakata City in Japan. Akatakata was established with this council over 30 years ago, and it's very close to Hiroshima. And if you've been lucky enough to go to Hiroshima, it's a real pause in your life as you stand on those grounds. It started as a rural community of Takamiya, which was at that stage a small town when Selwyn was small. Like Selwyn, there's been amalgamation, and it's now called Akatakata, with the capital city of that area being Ubetsu. The relationship is on pause from their point of view. Can you go to the next picture? And it's on pause because they're suffering from huge rural depopulation. Despite that, the friendships between people can continue. And in June this year, I was lucky enough to go and to meet the mayor. And you can see the Selwyn bag that we gave him with a gift in it from Selwyn. And then to have dinner with a number of people from Akatakata who have visited Selwyn on several occasions. It's a rice-growing area. It's an absolutely beautiful area. And although we're on pause, we don't want to get rid of it. You don't get rid of friends, you just wait and see what happens. We also visited the high school where our students from Darfield High used to visit. Next we'll move to the other sister city in Japan, which is Ubetsu, and Judith's going to talk about Ubetsu.
So as you can see, it's a coastal town. It's marked there
Close.
with the red dot. I cannot get this mouse to work, I'm sorry, so I can't point it out to you. With a population of around 9,000. The primary industries are agriculture, fishing and tulips, and apparently the tulip display in spring is very spectacular. So it was established in 2000 with a focus on education and some agriculture. It's a Melbourne Community Board relationship particularly, and it's supported by the Sister City Committee and of course Selwyn District Council as appropriate. So we've got, we've had a number of exchange visits between Ubetsu and Selwyn District, the most recent one being this year in June 2025, and we had 2 former community board members and 5 residents, including 2 community board members.
Hit the button for the pictures.
Visited, Ubetsu. I've got the Ubetsu Council the Ubetsu Council each year employs a Darfield High School ex-student in their secondary school. These are some views of our visit, and I was one of the people that went, and Alison was as well. So the first slide is a biogas plant. This is an experimental plant, and it's using cow manure. There's a vast amount of cow manure produced in that agricultural area, which was really just flowing out to sea because it's right on the coast. So this is to reduce that pollution, and it's been funded by the council, the Fishermen's Union and the farmers to see if this cow manure can be turned into something really useful. The second slide, top right-hand corner, is a scallop factory. Scallops are quite an industry there, and this has been funded both by the council, the prefecture, using federal funds and private investment. It employs 40 Vietnamese workers in the season of 9 months. And the third slide is Alison planting a tree to mark the 25-year anniversary. And this is in Ubetsu.
I'll just interrupt there for a moment. One of the things we noticed in both Akatakata and Ubetsu were the huge numbers of small solar farms on farms. We could not find out how they were being funded, but they were certainly in every little bit of agricultural land that was unproductive had a small solar farm in it.
We did quite a long road trip between Ubetsu and
Sapporo.
And there were solar farms and small solar units right along that road. Right, these slides. These are students from Ubetsu in their biennial visit, and Darfield High School has a sister city or sister school relationship with the Ubetsu High School and has had that for many, many years. So this is the exchange visit that came over this year. Students are billeted with families, and I had one billeted with me who was, plus my granddaughter, who was really the reason she was there. They take part in school lessons and visits across Melbourne County, Selwyn District, and into Christchurch as well. They're just here for a week, but it's a very, very busy week. So the first photo is from the welcome function, where we were shown how to fold paper into various objects. I can't remember what that one was.
Tulips.
Tulips, yes, tulips. They look like tulips. And usually, and of course we had the mayor there welcoming students. She was there for the evening. And students from each year, a student from each of the schools does a longer visit, usually about either a term or a year, to their equivalent high school. So there is quite a strong connection between Darfield High School and Ubetsu.
Thank you. And you'll notice that the mayor has a rather interesting club in her hand,
Yes, she does.
which was presented to her, and we wonder if she's used it yet.
It's in the office. It's in my office. It's Park Golf. It's like a golf club with a, really big head on it and quite a solid ball. So you're most welcome next time you're in my office to give it a go.
Should that be considered a warning?
All right, we move next to Shandong and Gansu province. The relationship between Selwyn and Shandong and Gansu province, which is in the northwest of China near the Gobi Desert, happened because Riwi Eli was born in Springfield, and we hope all of you have been to Springfield and looked at the memorial there. Gansu province has about 65 sister city relationships, and we're just one of them. But that means that not only Shandong look to us, but so do the province. And when I look here and look at Robert, he has reasons to be thankful for that, and so does Lydia. Gansu province has 26 million people, so it's not a small relationship at all. Riwi Eli established vocational schools for the rural poor, and I mean the really rural poor. During the Japanese invasion of China, he walked with their schooling equipment 1,100 kilometres to escape the Japanese with his students and his gear. He was a tough, tough character. And he established a school in Lanzhou, the capital, and another one in Shandong, when Shandong Bailey Vocational College now has over 5,000 students, all on doing a vocational education. So that's the reason for that relationship. Okay, Judith Kuming.
Right, Kunming is in the southeast of China. Each year China hosts an International Friendship Cities Conference. This year is in Kunming. And we had some representatives there. Alison went as a Selwyn District Council representative. I went with Michelle McWilliam, who's chair of Christchurch City's sister city, as Christchurch City representatives, because I'm also a member of the Christchurch Sister City China committee. And as you can see from, I'm holding a scroll, and the the Christchurch City Council Sister City Committee were awarded a trophy for their work in sister city relationships. So we very proudly received that. It was a wonderful, very well organised conference, as you would expect, and we were taken out and shown quite a lot of the countryside around Kunming.
And you'll note that the Mayor of Palmerston North, Grant Smith, who is the Chair of New Zealand Global Cities on the right, he was there representing New Zealand. Next slide. We work closely with Christchurch China Committee and Council, with Huranui, with the Riwieli Foundation of New Zealand and the New Zealand China Friendship Society. So we have lots of things going on. Last December, we were asked by Christchurch to host a delegation from Gansu, and you can see them here at Springfield. And thank you to Elizabeth, who drove through smoke and fire, as it happened, from Burnham to come up and join us. And thank you to Lydia and Hazel for doing the farm visit. I think Hazel's probably never had so many photographs in all her life with her and her pet lamb. Okay. In June 24, which was the previous financial year, the National Congress Minister of International Relations joined us at Springfield. You'll see Springfield children there planting yet another tree, and with members of the Riwieli Foundation. Because Riwieli was born here, that says Te Ranga Waiwai, whenever an important group comes from China, there's a fair chance they're coming to Springfield, and not always at long-term notice either. Okay, moving on. You'll be aware that the local history curriculum now allows schools to have some choices, and John Paul II in Greymouth decided last year to study Riwieli as part of their history curriculum for NCA level 2 and 3. And the students first had online discussions, and then followed by a visit to Springfield. And then they sent us all their written work and their pass rates, and they all got merits. So we were pleased that we'd given them some good information to work on. Interestingly, Melbourne primary schools and Darfield High School are also including Riwieli in their curriculum. Every second year we sponsor a interpreter from Shandan to come to study English here for 3 months. This year, Lu Ling joined us, and she's actually an agricultural teacher at Shandan Bailey. She was able to visit Lincoln University as well, and interestingly made contact with our Gansu fellow, who's from Barenberg, the research site, because she does research in potato growing, and interestingly, they are growing potatoes hydroponically. Shandan is too cold for wheat. It's a potato area, it's a sheep area. Moving on, our Gansu fellows, normally we are invited, along with Christchurch, to send one person for, it used to be back one, for 3 months. It's now reduced to 20 days, and Robert was one of those when it was longer. Last September, Lydia was our chosen candidate and went for those 20 days. This year, we sent a research scientist from Barenberg to on that Gansu fellowship. Now, she has been able to make contacts at Lanzhou University and Lanzhou City University and with Shandan Bailey, re the research that they're doing. So it's always interesting to see what can come from these relationships, and we're really lucky that those are done for us. Moving on. We also have strong relationships with the Chinese Consulate and with the Chinese Friendship Society, and Lydia was able to join the group with a dinner for number 3 in the National Congress in China, Mr. Zhao, the weekend of the Courtney show. And an interesting dinner, and interesting to see how much security New Zealand government puts on for someone of his importance. Sorry about the head in the photograph. There were too many heads for me to get much more at the dinner. Then the next day, the Chinese Friendship Society, along with the consulate, in 8 weeks managed to establish in Christchurch a new Rewi Alley Museum. And you can see Sir David Carter, who raised an incredible amount of money in a very short space of time to make that happen, and Mr. Giles signing the visitors book. Outside, Huranui, who we have very close relationships because Rewi Alley did his primary school years in Huranui, Michelle from Christchurch, China, and myself outside the exhibition. We were not allowed to take any photographs with Mr. Giles. He was heavily surrounded by security. Now, in August of this year, the Chinese consulate decided that they would celebrate the end of the Second World War in China. And you can see John there with a wreath representing Selwyn, and obviously the mayor as well. At that stage, we had 120 guests, and the Sister City Committee did the lunch for those 120 people. All of these visits end up in the Tawera Hall with lunch provided by and organised by our volunteers. There we go. Next we move to Toraja in Indonesia. This relationship was established because a group of Canterbury farmers decided that they could help with a rural trust in Toraja with coffee growing, with genetics and with cooperatives to cut out the middlemen for small farmers. During one of the Canterbury farmers' visits, the New Zealand ambassador was there. And at that stage, not a single place in New Zealand had a sister city relationship in Indonesia. And it's a huge country. So Calvin Coe was part of that group, and he came back and said, we're under pressure, we need to establish the relationship. And it has been an ongoing relationship since. It's an interesting community. It's a Christian community in the highlands, because the Dutch got there when the Muslims came through Indonesia. They didn't get up into the highlands. It's really a fantastic place to visit, with longhouses and so forth. We've had 2 groups of teachers go to work with improving English education in the schools. Nick, who you can see on the right, is of Dutch origin, so he's very warmly welcomed. He's one of our committee because the older people and him can talk very closely together. They understand the Dutch. For the first time, we spent 3 teachers who spent 3 weeks. Last year, in September, Nick went for a month and spent a month at the Barana Christian High School working on English language skills. It's an area of tourism. They see that relationship as important for horticulture, and when they visited, we certainly looked at horticulture, waste management, education, and tourism management. One of the questions that they have asked us, how do you get tourists to your place? And when they came, we took them to Hamner, to the pools, and they were very generous in describing what they did. We took them to Rubicon up on the Waimak, and again, a different way of enticing people in. So that relationship's based on those factors. I'm aware you've got time, so we're moving. The next relationship is Coventry in Rhode Island. Now, again, it's almost in a pause, although they do reply. And just last week, when Therese helped me to send the Thanksgiving messages to us, to them for Thanksgiving, they came back with a very positive response from that. Coventry is in Rhode Island. It's a small district. It's rural, but not agricultural. It was cotton mills and linen mills. It has a huge nuclear submarine shipbuilding plant down the road, and a lot of the children at the school, in fact, go and work in that submarine plant. So it's quite different, but a fascinating part of America in terms of First Nations, and they're very open about what happened. The War of Independence, Civil War, a real history trip to spend some time there. Now, we had a request from a group of local residents to establish this relationship in Italy. A group of our local Selwyn residents went, and it's on the opposite coast to Casino, but the battalion from Burnham got to this little town, and there was a ravine. They didn't get across the ravine, the Germans were on the other side, but it's remembered very strongly by those Italian people. They asked us to establish a sister-city relationship. It's really on their back burner. But on Monday, last week, I was lucky enough to meet the Italian Consul General at the Christchurch International Civic Reception, and I think we'll make some progress through him. It's always about people, okay? It may happen, it may not. Bob Mugford spent some time with one of their visitors when she was in New Zealand. I understand the Burnham staff are very keen for that relationship to be established. It's a different one from the normal casino relationships.
This is a view from the Selwyn Culture Fest, which was held in September.
Sorry, ladies, can I just get a wee bit of an idea of how much further we've got?
One more slide.
So we are 25 minutes
Right.
here with this.
Yep, we're going.
This is the
Right.
second to last. Right, in September in Lincoln, you hosted the Selwyn Culture Fest in September, and the Sister City Committee had a display there, and you can see ex-councillor Bob Mugford and myself helping man the display. And there we were able to talk with residents about what a sister city relationship is, explain the different ones that we have, and those boards that you see there are in your foyer for you to have a look at and read. It was a great time to interact with people and explain what we do, and perhaps get some future committee members.
Okay, and last slide. Levay Park, a question for you guys. I know that when the consultation was done, the idea of a sister city garden there was strong, and we don't know where you're at. I want to say thank you to Bob Mugford, who is councillor on the Sister City Committee, and who is going to continue on the committee, has been fantastic for many years. Welcome to John Very, who's going to be joining us. Welcome to Samantha Samuel, who is joining from the Melbourne Community Board. As of yesterday, we've been asked to organise a China-New Zealand Vocational Forum in Selwyn, December 2026. There was a pause made yesterday, which I'll talk about at our Sister City meeting tomorrow. It will possibly now happen in 2027. We are looking at a citizens delegation to China next year, probably September, and it now looks as though it will also include that vocational forum. Their conferences are usually a day and a half to 2 days, so it's not a big one. Well, no, it's well organised, but it's not a lot of time. And I'm hoping that some councillors will be able to join in that and learn something about that relationship. I've mentioned some of the people, the groups that we work with there. The relationship and the mana of Sister Cities depends on you guys being there as our backstop. Our volunteers do an incredible amount of work. They travel at their own expense. And be very clear, if you come as councillors, you pay your own way. There's no difference between you and your ratepayers. And we've always been really strong on that. Thank you to Therese, who has taken over the work with us, and we certainly appreciate all that you do for us, Therese. Thank you. We have tried to motor through, but we do a lot.
Thank you. Look, ladies, I really appreciate the overview that you've given, and it gives a really clear picture on the relationships that we have with our sister city countries, because it is extensive. And I appreciate the work that you do, and note that it's volunteer work, and it is much appreciated. We value the time that you all put into that. Councillors, I see that Elizabeth has a question, but I'm looking at the time, and we are 10 past 2, and we have 16 papers to get through today. So we have a very long list. And so I just wonder if there are any questions, maybe they could be written questions that we could send through to Alison as the chairperson of the Sister City Committee, and they may be replied to or discussed at your meeting.
And of course, you're always welcome to join us at our meetings, one tomorrow, 4:30 here.
Thank you, Alison. It's very kind of you to include us all in that. So thank you for your time today. Councillors, we will move on to confirmation of minutes. So I am happy to move the minutes. Is there a seconder for the minutes? Tracy, is there any discussion needed on the minutes in your agenda today? There being none, I will take that to the vote. All those in favour there be a true and accurate record, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call that carried. Next up is the Mayor's report. And so there were quite a few additions or appendices to this today. And so you'll see that actually November was actually a month of meeting people. It was a very long list of people wanting to connect in and meet. And I think actually, you know, relationships are key for us here in Selwyn. And it's also a thank you to those who have attended events on my behalf as well, when I haven't been able to make it to somewhere. We'll note in there that there is engagement from Minister Bishop, and I had asked if Emma would like to address the amendments to the district plan in there, so she can provide the expertise in what is listed there, and a bit more of the reasoning behind there, us asking the Minister for the amendments. And apart from that, I'll take it as read because you have it all in front of you, but I'll let Emma and Jeff talk through the amendments there.
Kia ora koutou. So just by way of a bit of background, after the decisions on our district plan were notified in August 2023, the council agreed to the policy team working on what we were calling Variation 3 to the district plan, which was kind of a bit of a mop-up of some provisions that were a bit niggly, they were hard to interpret, or they were generating a consent requirement when perhaps there wasn't much value in a consent being required. And just a bit of background, that's quite a common thing for a council to do when it's been through a district plan review. The reason for that is a district plan reviews, it's a huge process, and the hearings are held over a number of months or even years, often heard by independent panels that have different membership on different topics. So in the context of a district plan, there's a lot of threads to tie together. The other thing is that the council can't make a change to the notified version of the district plan unless there's been a submission that gives them the scope to make that change. So sometimes the submission doesn't quite give us all the scope we need to make changes to different parts of the plan to make it all tie together and work nicely. So that was why we were planning a variation to the district plan. But then halfway through this year, I think July, August, the government enacted the RMA amendment, consenting and other system changes amendment, which said that councils can't initiate plan changes to their own district plan. So it did offer some other options, one of which was to seek an exemption, so ask the Minister for RM Reform if we could progress this plan change with permission, I guess. Or there was this other option, Section 360, I think it is, around there, where the Minister has the powers to make regulations that would enable a change to our district plan. So we started thinking about that and came up with a list of the real priority changes that would make the biggest difference to the community, but that were not controversial. When you see them, the idea is that you would think that's a sensible change to make, because that's triggering a lot of consent requirements. They cost a lot of money, they take a lot of time, and if they're not managing in effect that's warranted, then perhaps we should take some action to change that. So the criteria for the minister, he has quite strict criteria about what is able to be progressed through this the ministerial powers. So it's about enabling economic growth and development and infrastructure. So that has to any changes you make or that are promoted by the minister has to meet that criteria. So that's kind of how we arrived at that list, and we have some questions that were pre-circulated, so I can just whip through the answers to those if that's helpful. So the first one was, what's the cost of making these changes? So that's one of the advantages of this process, is that it's aside from staff time, we don't expect there to be any cost, and that's quite different to, if we were going through the usual process of the variation, we'd have to publicly notify that a couple of times. There would be submissions, we'd have to hold hearings, we may need expert advice, so there is a cost to that usual plan change process. Next one, how will this be affected by the government's impending legislative changes, and will we be spending the money twice? Well, given that there's no significant cost, I don't think we'll be spending money twice, although a lot of the changes that are proposed are probably things that will happen as part of RM reform anyway. So some of them are, for example, when we think about a rule that requires glazing in the front facade of a residential unit, those are the sorts of rules that are indicated through RM reform to be no longer able to be in a district plan. So I think some of these changes are quite consistent where things are heading anyway with RM reform. Just around risks or implications. Our view is that the risk is low. These changes will remove the need for some resource consent applications to be made where there's limited value in doing so. Just back to that glazing rule. Just the interaction with some reports of some typologies of residential units resulting in overheating. And the requirement for a sort of minimum amount of glazing in your front facade. So I think that's one thing about that glazing rule, is it applies no matter the orientation of your section. So whether or not that front facade is south facing or north facing, you still need 20% glazing in it. So it's not necessarily aligned very well with thermal efficiency requirements of buildings. So so removing kind of the minimum, or not removing, reducing the minimum requirement for glazing doesn't mean that if someone wanted to, they could glaze the whole front facade of their building. We're just lowering the minimum a bit. Well, that's what the proposal is.
I'll just add to that one. There's a question related to that around how that change compares to the way other councils deal with that issue. And the answer to that is councils are really inconsistent with how they apply that particular standard. And looking at Waimak District Council, which is a couple of years behind where we are with our district plan review process, they have different glazing standards, 15% for the general residential zone, 20% for the MRZ, no standard for large lot residential, but Selwyn has 20% in every residential zone at this point. Other councils elsewhere in Canterbury and elsewhere in the South Island, some of them don't have any glazing requirement or standard.
Great. Guys, I wonder whether maybe it's good to, do you want to just touch on the signage? Because I know that's been probably a big one for our community lately, and that might do that. And then I'm happy to take any questions on the report and the list.
Yeah, so the particular issue around signage, which is number 15 on that list, relates specifically to Precinct 6 in the General Industrial Zone, which is all of iZone and iPort. Now, when we manage signage in the district plan, particularly in environments that are sensitive in terms of amenity and character, we think about on-site signs and off-site signs. So an on-site sign is a sign that perhaps you've got a cupcake business on your site and your sign is saying this is where the cupcake business is. That's what we refer to as an on-site sign. So the off-site sign is something, an advertisement or advertising something that's not on that site. So if you think about like a billboard scenario or something where the message changes periodically. So what we're trying to fix in Precinct 6 is that off-site signs are permitted, but on-site signs need a consent. So we need to make sure that the businesses that are operating there can have a sign on their site advertising their business or perhaps indicating that their business is there without needing a resource consent.
Oh, thank you. I think the important thing to note here is I've got a resolution in my paper, and actually it's just instructing staff that it's okay to work with the Minister's office on what these amendments look like and reporting back to us. So it's not decision making on saying, yes, let's proceed and change these. It's actually allowing the process to be undertaken, and we would expect reporting back to us for final decision on that. So not decision making, but allowing staff to instruct them to work with the office. So I'm happy to take questions. Sophie?
Yeah, just one question from me. So from what you've just said, working with the Minister's staff doesn't mean that there's a go-ahead. It just means working out which ones they'd be keen to work to alter. Is there any risk that actually when it comes to a go-ahead decision, that office will then go, actually, we want to change a few other things? Or is it sandboxed, like ring-fenced to the things that we have requested that they change?
I don't expect them to go wider than what has been put in front of them.
We're only putting the list that is there in front of them for things that... Yeah.
Sorry, it's more of a question because of the fact that we're in this very wide reach, and I know that everything is changing anyway. It's just whether we'd be opening the gates to more of that more quickly.
Yeah, so my understanding is we're not opening the gates, it's actually only what we're asking for, but then noting that, we have changes that are going to be forced upon at some stage, but in the interim, this is what we have. Are there any other questions on my report? There being none, I'm happy to move my report with the recommendations in there. Is there a seconder for that? Sophie? Is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favour please say aye. Against? Call it carried. Thank you. Moving on to updates of chairpersons of committees, and so within this we have a couple here, and I'll just note that going forward at our council meetings we will have Melbourne Community Board here to give us updates after the first official meeting. So the chairperson of Melbourne Community Board will report to council on the activities of the Community Board. I will hand over, we have a report there from our Chair of Audit and Risk. I will hand over to Steve and Alison to handle that report.
Thank you, Lydia. Councillors, apologies firstly from Annalisa who couldn't be here to talk to her report today. As noted, and I'm going to take the bulk of the report as read, but Alison and I are here to talk about the sensitive expenditure item, and in particular to give Council an update on the 9 actions that are left open at the moment under the sensitive expenditure programme of work from the internal audit that was undertaken earlier this year. Alison's just going to run through the 9 items to give you a sense of the work on the items that are open, what is going on, where are we at, and what are we planning to do in the early part and the coming parts of next year. So Alison, can I pass to you now?
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. So, I won't go through them one by one. There are 9 in total. One's obviously being completed, 8 remain open. I think what is probably quite key here is there's a consistent theme around those actions or the findings that's come out of it. And they're largely centred around internal controls, our policy, our training, our reporting and our systems. Our policy, we do have a policy in place just now. It could be better. It needs to be more in keeping with the OAG the Officer General guidelines. The reporting is underway and the reporting will be tabled back to the next audit and risk. The 8 remaining actions are well underway. And I think it's worth just talking about the financial hygiene project and the linkage back there as well. We've talked a lot about the GL codes being over 20,000 of them. So it's actually the GL coding structure, which does include the cost centres. We're sitting now just around about the 4,000 mark, so a massive change there. And I think that what that does is it enables us to look at what has been coded where. So that goes to the internal control framework. Where we're coding items, are they in keeping with our delegations? Are they in keeping with our policy? And do we have the right transit of where this information is going to be coded in the first place? Becca has just walked into the room as well, and this is one of the things that Becca, who's now hiding, is working on in the background as well. But I think from an assurance stance, we have made a lot of progress in looking at these. Annalisa's background is quite similar to mine in terms of that audit stance, so the internal control framework and making sure we've got our ducks in a row so we can actually report on this on a clear and timely basis is clear. I'll stop there and happy to take any questions.
I'll open up to councillors. Sorry for the pause. There is, a slight bit of thinking going on there, and I think what councillors have been asking for is, the actions associated and what we are doing against those 9 items. And I know that you say it is coming back to the next Audit and Risk Committee. I think what we're looking for is some comfort that it is in hand and it is being addressed and processed through the ways that we are working, and not necessarily some of it looking to close off in June 2026, that actually this is a priority for us. I don't know whether you want to talk about that at all before I head into questions from councillors.
I think I could probably start to touch on the deadlines on June 2026, and you might say, well, that is a long way away. A large part of what Alison's talked about, and we'll fill in some of the details behind me, is that it's based on the budgeting structure, and a big chunk of the work that we're now doing is setting up the next annual plan budget to address a number of these items from that financial structure and from that financial framework, and that will include a further reduction on the GL codes, so that the new budget that we're setting in place, which we don't actually finally adopt until late June and doesn't come into effect until 1 July, is probably the final step in that process of tightening up our internal control structure. Alison, do you want to touch a little bit more on that, on those items around the 30th of June deadline?
Yeah, and I think what I was just going to add to that as well, in terms of what information gets presented back to the next Audit and Risk, there will be a full dashboard of these actions, and that also needs to be a dashboard of the Audit New Zealand, any open actions from there as well. As Steve noted from an annual plan stance, the findings from here need to flow through to the broader annual plan and also into a long-term plan. So we've got clarity around, from this group, from a governance stance, is there the appropriate assurance around how money is being spent? Is it being spent appropriately? And is it being spent on a timely basis and reported back? So for the next audit and risk, as I said, there'll be the dashboard, but there'll also be reporting to say what monies have been spent in keeping with these OAG guidelines. That report will be from July 1st this year through to whatever period we're at that point in time. So it will be probably the end of December. That will be broken down between councillors' expenditure and that of the chief executive, and it will be broken down into areas which is the training, the travel, mileage, and a number of criteria that sits across the top. That is the best practice, and that's broadly in keeping with what other councils do as well. I don't think I've got much else to add on that, but certainly from a action stance, there'll be a full detail around where we're up to with each one. Like I say, we are all on track to finish those, and if we can finish them earlier, we will. The June 26th date is not like a target that we're aiming for. We're looking to prioritise these and get these done as quickly as we can to provide assurance to this group.
So when I look through the list, I note that number 1 is on track to be closed off for December, so inconsistent use of general ledger accounts. You touched on the fact that we have done that work into the GL codes and the amalgamation of that, so that is the process and the work that has happened.
Yep. That one is actually largely complete already. We've just got a few other tidy up things there, and we want to make sure that the tidy up there is captured within the update that we're doing to the sensitive expenditure policy. And similarly with the one below, credit card, we've got a draft policy there that's already gone through ELT.
So that's number 2, gaps in policies related.
Yep. And like I said, with the rest of them, they all follow that theme. And I think the other component here as well is the internal training to make sure people is aware or are aware of what we need to be including from both a purchase order stance and also the delegations as well.
Cool. And then the August one is completed, so manual selection of approver. 8, use of open purchase orders, that's on track to be closed off.
That one, similar to the first one, is also on track to be closed off in the timeline, largely done already. Policy review, again, we've got a draft policy for the credit card that's already gone through ELT, and sensitive expenditure policy is well on track.
And so we will see those back to Audit and Risk Committee first, and then through to Council?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Samuel.
Hi, Alison. Besides the excessive number of GL codes, which I think we can all agree with, and the financial hygiene, what else would you say could be better regarding our sensitive expenditure?
I think it's the training aspect. I mean, the organisation has grown really quickly. And I'm not saying things were lapsed in the past, but we have grown at a rate, and our systems, processes and training is not kept up. So we're now at the point where we need to get everything on track. So that's making sure we've got clear policy. And it's not just a policy that's raised and it's put in a drawer somewhere. It's a policy that we educate people on and they understand why it's there, its necessity, and what we're actually doing with it. And also explaining to people that this information will be reported back. So it's not just, you've got a budget there, let's go spend money. It's, do you need to spend that money and why are you spending it?
I think there's been some concerns in the past that possibly policies haven't really been followed, as you say, so maybe we need to reiterate that they're there for a reason. And yeah, the inadequate monitoring, the use of general ledger codes, I think that was due to be closed off on the 31st of December. It would be nice to get it before New Year's. I'd rather do something else. But yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for presenting this and filling the gap.
I think to note that a fulsome report back at the first or the next Audit and Risk Committee in the new year will be presented on this as well. So Sarah.
Cool. Thank you for the update, Alison. Just in terms, I guess, of ensuring this is sort of long-term sustainable, obviously we want to all the ducks are in a row with these individual items, but to make sure that this isn't going to be a recurring issue. Is there sort of anything systems-wise that we need to do to support this, or do you think that ongoing training will be enough?
It's a combination. So purchase order training in systems and policy is key. Our systems are not great. We've talked a lot about that in the past, but certainly the changes we've made here by closing down a lot of accounts, GL codes, and the coding structure that sits alongside it, it minimises the risk. So what we're doing is, we know our systems aren't brilliant, we can't replace those just now, but it's really around controlling what we can and minimising the risk of anything going awry. We've got the regular reporting. Becca and her team are going through this with pretty much a fine-tooth comb on a monthly basis. Anything that stands out from the exception stance, we will be reviewing it. And if there's anything that's been spent that's not in keeping, we will be raising that through the appropriate channels back through to Sharon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I might add to that too, I think when you start to look at this piece of work in conjunction with the delegations and the tightening up that's gone on over the last 12 months in that space, you know, the sense of the internal control and the rigour that we're putting in at the moment is designed to, you know, get the right daylight on the right things, and certainly that report back next year will be that daylighting process to a degree completed and then started on a regular basis for this council.
I think, Steve, just adding to that as well, it's the transparency and timeliness of reporting that also goes to finance performance, because that's been ultimately the consolidated position, and the subset of that will be sensitive expenditure.
Thank you. Tracy?
I don't think I'm going to be quite as relaxed as my previous two colleagues, so just giving everybody a heads up. I'm not sure that I feel a lot more assured now than I did 10 minutes ago. And that's because one of your statements was that the policy could be better in line with the OAG. And so I'm going, this report from Deloitte was tabled in May. You know, was there consideration given to suspending all sensitive expenditure until we were a decent way down the track of addressing the matters that came up in the Deloitte report? So that's my first question.
So we didn't suspend, so there's aspects of expenditure that we can't suspend. But what we have done, in the absence of getting time to get the policy updated, is review everything. So we've got a single point of contact primarily within the finance team that all expenditure of this nature sort of runs through. So that gives us that internal control. So I mean, apologies if I've not articulated that as well, but we do have that point of contact within the finance team and other teams. And it's regularly discussed at ELT as well, with the emphasis on what we need to do in this area. And there has been quite a lot of discussion across other teams as well around, okay, you've got a budget, but the budget is not a target. What do you need to do and what do you need to spend and why?
Okay, look, I appreciate that because this has been quite a difficult process to get to this point. I'm not saying that to point the blame at anybody, but this is a public meeting, and I think people have a right to kind of hear some of this. I've been really disappointed at how difficult it's been to get any detail, real detail about the addressing of these 9 points. And what that does is it gives a pervading feeling that things haven't been addressed. Like, why would we not be getting the information if it's been addressed? Now, as it turns out, it is being addressed, but we need to know that, because we ultimately hold the confidence in the staff, in the ELT, that's with us to take out there. So I can't defend the ELT and the staff if I don't know myself that these things have been done, if that makes sense. So we can be assured that nobody is signing off their own approvals anymore. That's what you've said. So that's great. That's one of the things I would have liked to have been reassured of at the November meeting. So I'm just looking for that little bit more detail. For example, I read in the report at the AAR meeting, you know, that training is underway and stuff like that. How many people have done the training? How many have completed it? Did they complete it to a good standard? You know, who chooses when those people are doing the training? Can I just do the training when I feel like it? Or do you see what I'm getting at? And that's what gives us the assurance screenshots of the online program. So we now know it exists. This is what it looks like. It may sound like it's not a big deal, but that's how we feel the assurance. That's the evidence where we can go, okay, people are doing the training, they're not determining when they're doing the training, and so on. So I'll leave it there because I think I've made my point. So thank you for coming today, and Steve as well. And it's just that extra bit of assurance. It means you're all going to have to give us a little bit more than perhaps you're used to giving for a little while.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. And I think what we will include, just to your point there, with the next audit and risk meeting is a summary of that training, who has completed what. I mean, ideally, we would want to have that training mandatory when a person starts, and that reviewed on a regular basis as well, to keep people in the loop, to make sure they are recognising the importance in this area.
Thank you both. John.
Thank you. Look, I fully understand that you're speaking to a report that you didn't write, and that there's no sort of adverse comment about that, because at least you've had the courage to come along and speak to it, given some of the background. I suppose, I do know that from my point of view, looking at Roman numeral 6, I just had the thing that came to my mind that the sensitive expenditure training would have happened around about June last year, and then it could have been closed off in June 2025. And then, I suppose, more relevantly, I believe as a councillor that I've got a discretionary budget, and I would expect that, and I'm just asking this question, are we at the stage now that if I decide to use some of my councillor's discretionary budget to pay for an airfare to Wellington, because I may have a side hustle in Wellington, what would happen to that?
So, John, on that point, if you choose to have your trip to Wellington, that trip will be reported to the next audit and risk meeting. So councillors will be listed individually with all the spend that sits across the categories, whether it be travel, flights, accommodation, phone bills, mileage, you name it. Lydia would probably approve your expenditure. If we report that through and say to Lydia, John's expenditure's looking a bit high, you might want to have a wee chat with him about it. So that's the level that we will be taking this.
So it wouldn't be...
Not that I'm suggesting, John, your travel is dodgy.
No. Well, it certainly, flies all the red flags that it's dodgy. And I suppose what I'm concerned about is that I think it's so dodgy that I wouldn't expect it to be approved. Yeah. And a bit like if I damaged a company vehicle and it wasn't covered by insurance, that I would be asked to pay for it, reimburse the council, because at the end of the day it's ratepayers' money. And if I'm foolish enough to damage a company vehicle through my own stupidity, then...
I don't think we need to get into the specifics of things that may have happened in the past, but I'll let Steve add some commentary to that.
Look, I think just entering onto the fictional travel that John might or might not be taking, I think the key point there, John, is that there is a second level of approval before that flight can actually be booked, and that sits with the one-up, which would be the mayor. And in every case around travel in this organisation, that is the same process. There is a one-up approval for that travel to occur. There has to be a budget, and there has to be a legitimate work reason for that to be approved. I don't think you're going to Wellington.
There'll be some questions on what are you planning on doing and why. Round once more, Samuel.
So just to clarify, if the mayor was going to have a trip to Wellington, could the mayor sign off on the mayor's trip to Wellington?
The chief executive signs that off. So there is an external approval. So the chief executive would approve and organise that travel on the mayor's behalf. So there is there's a one-away approval step down.
Okay. Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. No, that is an actual check.
That is. All right, thank you very much for the update for that. There's also an update if Aaron wishes, as the Chair of Finance and Performance, he could provide a verbal update to us if he so wishes to, noting that we were all there at the meeting. He may not wish to, but this is an opportunity if he does.
I don't think there's any need for me to go into any more detail. It's all online and you were all present. So if you've got any questions you want to raise, bring them up, but otherwise, no.
Cool. Thank you. I take the resolution just as a whole, and so the resolution is that the council receives the updates from chairpersons of committees for information. Is there a mover for that, Sarah, and a seconder? Aaron. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call it carried. Thank you. We will move on to tab 6, which is the Chief Executive's report. And I will hand over to Steve as the acting CE.
Thanks, Lydia. Councillors, there are a number of decisions attached to the report today. It's mainly associated with three things: the ratification of the minor amendment related to the remuneration pool, totalling $3. It's important because the rules around this have to be exact. We need to have the exact number, and so apologies for being a pedant, but here we are. The second element is related to the proposed changes to both the terms of reference and the policy associated with the community funding panel. I'm going to talk a little bit more to that point, and the last item is just to confirm the minor amendments discussed last week at the Finance and Performance Committee, that they are also adopted today. So I'm going to take the bulk of the report as read, but I am going to touch on the community funding part of this report now. So as you know, the council has a responsibility for this, for managing the contestable funding. This is really important for our community. In light of the representation review and the findings from that previously, we do have a bit of a disconnect between the structure now of this council and the way in which both the terms of reference and the fact that our policy refers specifically to that membership in the terms of reference, that we've got a bit of a disconnect now between how this council is structured. And so it's proposed in item 6.3 to your report that the terms of reference are amended, and as a result, the subsequent flow on to the policy is also updated to actually remove that tie, so the policy remains a policy and the terms of reference is actually where the council can make its decision around this, but they are connected, and what we're seeking with the policy is just to break that connection, because we don't want to have to keep coming back and updating the policy if membership changes, and that is more flexibility for the council, but again a council decision. So the recommendations to that point are covered in C, D, E and F, and I think that's probably what I want to say on that point at this stage. So over to you, Mayor Lydia.
Okay. I think there were a couple of things raised with me around the community funding panel and the terms of reference, and we had a discussion actually, what does this look like if we leave this to lie on the table to allow the community funding assessment panel to actually make the decisions into what the terms of reference look like, and that will have the flow-on effect into the policy. As per standard practice with our Finance and Performance Committee, we looked at the terms of reference and we made some decisions on that around the deputy chair and any other amendments we would have liked to have seen in that. So the community funding panel have told me that they haven't had a chance to go through the terms of reference, and so I think the preference would be, I think from them, is that the C through F actually lie on the table to give that panel a chance to go through their terms of reference and to make any amendments that they see fit. And that, my question to it is there any implications of doing that? Because we know that that is important to our community to receive funding and to work through that progress. So I just need to understand if there are any implications in letting that lie on the table.
So I believe I can answer that, and also just let you know a risk that lies with that decision today. Fundamentally, there's no major problem with you letting this lie on the table, subject to the availability of the members and staff to get to deal with this matter before the next council meeting, which is a decision you're also going to pass later today. So subject to that, that could be achieved in January or February, and then it would come back. There may be a slight timing issue where I think the proposal is that in February the plan is to have a council meeting, you'd be adopting that, and then straight after that I think the plan is to have the community funding panel meet to make some formal decisions. So there is a slight risk there. Procedurally, there's a small problem, and that one of the gaps is that we would recommend you at least adopt for this period of time the current terms of reference, because they were put on the shelf with every other policy in terms of reference of this council at the end of the triennium. This one wasn't picked up to be reenacted and decided on. That was part of today's decision. So if you do leave the basis of these changes on the table, I could propose a new recommendation. Thankfully, I was given a slight heads up from our mayor, so I do have something that we could put on the screen should you not vote on these recommendations which are before you.
I think at this time I will open for questions on the paper, and so John.
No, look, I agree, and my thoughts would be I would accept the adoption of the current terms of reference, and maybe with the addition that of F, that an additional councillor be appointed to the assessment committee, or if one of the 4 councillors who are on the assessment committee are unable to make it, that they're able to nominate another councillor, something like that, so that it can work, because I would like to see a little bit more time given to go through as a part of the assessment committee, so that we can come up with something that's going to have some rigour.
Thank you, John. I think what it might be better to do is that if we it's either a do it or a don't do it moment. If you decide not to do these recommendations and you're comfortable for me to then propose 2 replacement recommendations, that might be a cleaner way to deal with this, so that we don't try and wordsmith the recommendations in the meeting, that I've got a plan B should you not want to proceed with this.
Okay. Happy to take guidance from councillors on what they would prefer to. Elizabeth.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was simple enough to change what John had said, which is instead of it appoints up to 5 councillors for the community funding panel, we just have appoints a councillor, appoints at-large councillor when a ward councillor is unavailable.
I would think that sits within the terms of reference. So that would be the amendments that you would make into the terms of reference, rather than point F. So you would be able to nominate someone to stand in your place, and that would need to be added into your terms of reference.
Right. Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but for it to be long-standing and for you to be delegated that decision in that panel, it would have to be included into the terms of reference.
Correct.
Aaron?
I might be mistaken, but I think the existing terms of reference already allow for a councillor who's not going to be away to appoint someone else, so that would cover us in the interim until we fine tune. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Samuel?
Alternatively, if we were to follow what's written out in front of us and then reappoint the same chair and the same deputy as anyway, isn't that going to save Steve a whole heap of headache? Just saying. Same outcome, same delivery. And we can stop talking about it.
It's the next.
So, look, I am seeking guidance from you around this table. I think that taking A, B and G are fairly simple resolutions on the screen today. No, I will come, we can't get rid of the rest, but I will come to you for some guidance on what an amendment looks like to those ones. So I just wonder whether we clear out the 3 resolutions that are fairly straightforward in this process. And so I propose that Council receives A, B and G. So A receives the Chief Executive's report for information, B ratifies the $3, and G confirms the terms of reference for Finance and Performance Committee. So is there a mover for those 3 recommendations? Tracy, seconded. Samuel. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call those carried. And then, look, Steve, I'm happy to hear what your alternative resolution is.
So I think the team have prepared something earlier, which is the highlighted elements there. So essentially, putting my glasses on as well as you, the recommendation, the first one, approves the terms of reference for the Community Funding Assessment Panel attached as the appendix, except that the track changes on page 5 and 8 are not accepted and will be brought back to the new council meeting for consideration, or for the next council meeting for consideration. So that's essentially, you've adopted the terms of reference, you've filled the wee procedural gap, and you've bought yourself the time because you've left the other elements on the table. It would see the removal of the next recommendation and replaced with request a report be brought back to the next council meeting regarding recommended amendments to the Community Funding Assessment Panel terms of reference and community grants policy. And that is just the tie-in to the fact that the policy includes the membership, and it's a double up. And so all we'd do is we'd bring that along, whip it out, and then disconnect it, and we then deal with the policy at a later date. So that would be, should you not do plan A, here is your plan B.
Steve, just looking at that, point C, we're still looking to revoke the appointment of councillors because we've taken away. So
no.
Point C needs to go and be struck out as well. So I think that if we remove resolution C,
correct, yeah.
Thank you, and resolution D and amended E would be on the table, which I think are pragmatic solutions which allows the community funding panel to go through their terms of reference and bring that back to council as a recommendation from the panel. I think it gives a fairly pragmatic approach and fills the gap of procedure. Cool. Are there any questions? There being none, I'll look for a mover of resolution D and E on the screen. John being the mover and a seconder, Denise. Are there any?
Yeah.
F won't be there either. No F. We're only looking at D and E. Just like that. Okay, are there any questions? There being none, I'll put the vote. All those in favour of resolution D and E? Aye. Against? Call it carried. Thank you, team. Okay. Next up, we have our report on the Canterbury Mural Forum.
2 hours. You could get, just with approval, get this done and have a break.
Councillors, are you okay? We have gone over the 2 hour, but there are a few reports in public. I'd seek if someone would be happy to push past the 2 hour mark to get through the public portion of this meeting, and we will then take a break. So moved by Sophie, seconded by Tracy. All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Cool. So next up, we have the Canterbury Mural Forum paper, and so this is a paper on the fact that we are required under the Local Government Act to have a regional agreement. We've had a meeting of the Canterbury Mural Forum, and I'm bringing the agreement back for ratification from Council. We've noted in the report that we have put more information on there around work plans and budgets associated with the Mural Forum, and those items are in there for transparency and oversight for you and will be part of our annual plan discussion. There's also a workshop of the Canterbury Mural Forum at the end of January to look at what is our work plan, what will we be doing, and to look at the reform that we are working through as well. And I would say that the RMA will impact the work plan that is associated from there. So on page 119 of the clause, in diligence, there are 2 clauses, and there is an or. And with that is dependent on what changes are made to the Local Government Act. And so both have been included there for depending what happens through the System Improvement Bill to the changes of services to Council. But happy to take any questions. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think there was a comment that was raised, and I think it was Samuel the other day, about we kind of want to see where the money's been going and what's been really coming out of it. I know that they've obviously done action plans, but there's a whole lot of, as the old saying is, a whole lot of hooey and not a lot of doey. It would nice to see what the doey is that's been coming from this, because in this economic state, I think we're wanting to see, bang for buck, to be quite honest.
So in this, there are the operational costs of the regional forum, which is secretariat meeting fees, all the types of things that go into that. The work plan is the further discussion to this. And so we are obliged to have a regional agreement. I can take any feedback on this. I have made it very clear at Canterbury Mural Forum that we are looking for efficiency with the dollar that we do have associated to this, with all of the funds for not just the meetings and the agreement, but also the work plan that is associated to it as well.
Maybe I just need to be a little bit more specific. I think probably quite a strong breakdown on where the costs are going, because that's what our ratepayers expect from us. That's what we expect from staff. I think we could say the same about this. How much of it is it booking hotel rooms? How much is it buffet lunches? How much is it flying in speakers, that kind of thing?
So my understanding is that there is a Mural Forum dinner the night before that is paid for by yourself. I haven't attended it, but you pay your own way in that space. Look, I can follow up for more of a breakdown on that. Whether or not that stops you signing or ratifying a triennial agreement is up for discussion as well. So, Sophie?
Yeah, for me, I can generally see the value of the mayoral forum, aside from the fact that there's a clause in the Local Government Act that effectively means we have to be part of one. For Canterbury, it's generally best for doing work that is cheaper for us to do as a group than if we did it individually. So it looks like money going out, but we do get benefit. But I agree that sometimes the reporting back's a bit of a dodgy one. And in the, I think it's the terms of reference. So on page 122 of Diligent, 3C under the principles, it's got establish a provision for reporting back to its respective councils. And I know we've had some discussion about that in the past, so I just want to bring that one up again, because the current way of the mayoral forum reporting back, mayors kind of figure out how to do it themselves, and sometimes that looks really good and sometimes that does not look so good. Sometimes we don't even find out there's a meeting until after it's happened. And I guess, not saying that you'd be slack on that count, but it would be interesting if the Secretariat could come up with a general format for that. Again, in the interests of everybody doing things cheaper by doing them collectively. Like, why can't it be sent like agendas, minutes, briefing papers, so that we can actually have it on our agendas potentially, or at a workshop, so that we can actually talk about this stuff as a group before you represent us at the mayoral forum level, and then back again, so that we've got a bit more trust over where the money's going and what the work is being done. It's just my thoughts.
Yeah, and I guess I tried to set a precedent after the last meeting that I went to get a summary out to you of what was discussed and the program directly after the meeting, so that you're aware. Because noting that it does take time for the minutes of meetings to come out, and also what was my take on it instead of just minutes from a meeting. So, yeah, look, that's the precedent that I hope to set, and if I don't hit that, then please tap me on the shoulder and inform me that I am not hitting what I intend to do. But noted, Sophie, around just the transparency of it and the minutes and the agendas and whatnot. So I've noted that in my book. And thank you. Samuel.
The mayoral forum might be great. The briefing definitely didn't bowl me over with confidence that it delivered anything. I understand collaborative approaches are a wonderful thing. But I've seen 4 different figures for how much we pay each year, and I still can't seem to actually find any uniformity of what that figure is. Is it adjusting with inflation each time I open it? So what are we paying? What does it actually deliver? I don't need to itemise nickel and dime, but I want to see some worth in it.
So what we're discussing today is the triennial agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So all the other items, all the work plan, all the actions, the outcomes of that are all associated into the annual plan. So you're talking about this $6,741.
Yeah.
That's all council. So what we contribute towards.
That's for the membership. Then there's the climate change incentives
and
that
we're
are
not
included.
discussing that today. So that is all part of the annual plan.
But it's like paying a deposit on
those are line items through the annual plan that you will get to make decisions on.
Okay.
So we're not committing to any of that today. What we're committing to today is a triennial agreement that we have an obligation through the Local Government Act to be part of, and whether or not you agree with what is associated in that agreement. There is a regional forums levy because things do cost. And this mayoral forum agreement is actually crucial to the work that we have coming up We have been instructed effectively that this will be the forum where regional Sorry? Oh, sorry. Great. Well, that's for me. But this is really important. The work plan, further discussion is definitely needed, and I'm not the only one around the table that has voiced concerns around the costs associated with that. And so that is part of the work plan in the new year, is to actually go, what is our focus? What are we going to deliver? And what is important to us right now as the Mayoral Forum? You still have a question, Samuel?
Nope.
Aaron?
You essentially stole my thunder, but the key 3 lines for me is on page 117, above the $1 million of costs. We're talking about the 6741, committing to that. We don't have a lot of choice about committing to it. If we wanted to renegotiate the fee, it would probably cost us twice as much in staff time to go and do it. So I think we need to accept this paper and move on.
Brace?
I'm not so sure I agree, Aaron. I think that if you accept this now, this triennium, the fees, I appreciate that we've got a legal obligation. My question, probably to yourself, is what if we don't accept it?
The triennial agreement or the fees?
No, I'm not worried about the fees. I mean, $100,000 is a small number compared to what we've been looking at in the future. But what is it feels like we're getting tunneled down a decision that then cannot be changed because we agreed to it.
We're agreeing to a triennial agreement.
Yep. And so if we don't agree to that, or no, okay, I'll take your point, Mayor. That if we agree to that, and then all these costs come that are associated with it afterwards, then what choice do we have? Because we're in an agreement in a joint venture with all the other councils. And
yes. Yep. Okay. So I hear you. We don't have any obligation to agree to the rest of the costs associated to the work plan costs. So the things that you had flagged in there around regional deal participation, Canterbury Energy Inventory, climate partnership plan, we have no obligation, but I will have to take that back as a recommendation from this council what the outcome or decision is, and that outcome and decision will happen through our annual plan process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But it's just, I take on board fellow councillors' thoughts, and I appreciate what we're discussing, but holistically we have to be able to take in what we're walking into that we can't pull out of.
Absolutely, and I understand, and at our first Mayoral Forum meeting, I voiced the concerns that were raised after the briefing that was had here around the costs associated to these here, and as I said, I wasn't the only person to raise those concerns. And it is something that we're going to have to work through. Actually, what are our priorities this coming 12 months as a Mayoral Forum? And how much time that the mayors actually have to give to this when we have these reforms to this. And so there's a lot of feedback to go back on what the work plan is. But today is about the triennial agreement that we are obligated to have as a region.
And I feel that pain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
John?
Yep. So we're just asked to agree or disagree to go into the deal, and it's $6,741, and then any other costs or any other activity is up to each of the individual participants to say, well, look, their rater base wants them to be involved, or the rater base doesn't want them to be involved. So it's minimal cost, a lot of work for the mayor, which is good, and we'll get value for that, and then we can move forward. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, John. It is, you are 100% correct. You know, we will look at what our priorities are as a council and put those forward to the mayoral forum, and that work will happen through the annual plan, most likely on the 21st of January ahead of the workshop. Denise.
If this was when we discussed it previously, I was probably like Samuel and a bit worried about what was actually being done there. But since then, they've taken, you know, there's all the talk of taking out the regional councils, whatever. So I feel that you really need to be there with these other mayors and building that relationship. And for $6,741, that seems okay. And we just need to be careful about all those other costs for all those other things, which did seem to be rather triplicating things, that we are careful not to get involved with those.
Well, absolutely. I think the discussion needs to be have what is the benefit to us?
Yeah.
And is there benefit?
Yeah, but I think there's definitely benefit of you being there.
Space.
And getting to know those other mayors and working with them.
Well, we have a work plan.
Yeah.
We have been instructed to undertake a large body of work, and so regardless, the agreement has to be signed as per the Local Government Act. Tracy.
Yep. In the appendix, number 4, powers, subsection B, the Canterbury Mayoral Forum does not have the power to legally bind any council to any act or decision unless that act or decision has been agreed to by decision of that council.
Hence why we're bringing this back, and I didn't just say, yes, that's great. It is for this council to decide. There being no other questions, I'll ask for a mover. Big Red, and a seconder, John. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Reese is against. Would you like that recorded, Reese? Call it carried. Okay. Tab 8 is a public report submission on the Fast Track Approvals Amendment Bill. We'll pass over to Jeff to talk about that. Jeff and I presented to the committee, and you kind of got the feeling that you weren't really being listened to. I'll say it outright. You presented, it was really rushed. There was not a lot of time in there, and I think it's actually a little bit of a shame, the effort that goes into putting submissions together and the thought about it, for it all to just be dismissed. But hand over to you, Jeff.
Thank you. So I'm here to speak to the Council's submission on the Fast Track Approvals Amendment Bill, with the key recommendation in the report to that the Council retrospectively endorses the attached submission on the bill that was filed with the Select Committee on the 17th of November. As Mayor Lydia said, her and I presented to the Select Committee on the 25th of November in a 10-minute time slot, and then we quickly moved on. On Friday, the Select Committee reported back to Parliament post their hearings of submissions, and they had elected not to make any recommendations to change anything as a result of those hearings and submissions. There is some updates, further updates from today. It's going through second reading in Parliament, and the Minister has actually introduced further amendments to the amendments today, which are slightly positive, and they do, respond to some of the points that were made in the Council submission. I've had a quick read of it today. The 60 working day time frame for making decisions that was proposed has been relaxed to 90 working days, and there's some better definition around what the requirements were for where applicants were to notify councils prior to making applications. So the legislation's been amended to provide for a 20 working day timeframe for councils to respond before applications will be lodged. So that's a positive. And there's a few other changes as well, but I haven't gone through the detail of that.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll go for questions. There being none. Oh, sorry, Aaron. No, Elizabeth.
It's not you, Aaron. Just checking with the final result, does that mean that with all fast tracks, there's no capacity for anybody to take it to court to legislate any concerns?
So related to this process of making changes to the Act, or?
You've said the Select Committee have presented to Parliament
Yep.
and they didn't make any changes. So that means that if there is a concern that's voiced, there's no legal capacity to go down a legal route, is there?
No, it's going through the further steps in the parliamentary process this week, and there were just those further amendments that the Minister had introduced today, and beyond that point, it's largely beyond challenge.
Thank you.
And Aaron.
It's not a question. I just wanted to thank you and the team for dealing with it so quickly and making sure that we had a chance to input into what you did put forward. So thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's I mean, you're right, Aaron. It is the thanks and all the time that goes into it, and that's what leads to the disappointment when you feed so many hours into doing things. And we appreciate the opportunity and the work that you put into these submissions. I'll look for a mover for the resolution on the screen in front of us. Sierra, seconded Reese. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call it carried. Moving on, we have the adoption of the proposed meeting schedule for 2026. I will hand over to Steve for this, but there is just one thing that I did want to note in there, that actually not every Wednesday was booked out, and that is something that is a standing requirement from us, is that every Wednesday is booked in that space. But I'll hand over to Steve to talk to the report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I'm going to take the report as read. It's procedural. It's just identifying those, and with the Mayor's identification of those Wednesday meetings, the calendar's put to you for the decision in recommendation 1. The only note that will also get updated is that the Melbourne Community Board meet on Monday to agree on their meeting schedule, and once that Community Board has met and decided, that we will also bring those that decision of the board into this meeting calendar, so that we can share that with the community. Happy to take any questions, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I think just a note through that finance and performance, we confirmed our meeting schedule through the terms of reference, and that same with audit and risk, and but noting also as standing orders in terms of reference for committees, this is a minimum of meetings. There is also the avenue to call meetings as needed through standing orders terms of reference, which I think is important to note in this space. But going to questions is Reese.
I just wanted a question to John. So John, part of that Melbourne Board Mondays, was that voted on? Is that in advance?
It's Monday to come.
To come.
Yeah, Monday
for them
the
to
15th.
accept. For them to be added. Oh yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
So it will be subject to a paper and a discussion as part of my report to the board next week, and there are some options that the board can consider as to how they want to see the next year run out for them.
Sophie.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to ask about the missing Wednesdays as well, and just even if there's nothing actually there, like it would be very much appreciated if they could be put as a placeholder in the diary, just so that we know to expect something, because frankly there always is something, and so there should be.
Yes, and that is, yeah, like I mentioned, Wednesdays are compulsory booked. And I look at the things that we want to do, and even the site tours and all this actually may require other days, because we know the work program that is coming at us also from central government, that we need every Wednesday possible throughout the year. Are there any other questions on the meeting schedule? Elizabeth?
Yeah, so the 21st, we obviously come back a bit earlier than we were anticipating in January. What are we needing to tackle on the 21st?
The 21st is being booked for our annual plan, and so we need to come back to council earlier than anticipated, so that we can work through annual plan to give staff an indication of our preference, so that they can then draft a budget associated and bring that back to us of what numbers look like. And then we have, the days on there on the 27th, 28th for reform workshops. Okay. Any other questions on meeting schedule? I'll put the resolution in front of us on the screen here. Is there a mover for the resolution? John, and a seconder, Tracy. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Next one is the elected member interest register, and this is the first time that this has actually come to council. This is quite a new thing for us to have included, or potentially included, in our agendas, listing all these. So I'll hand over to Steve for this paper.
Gonna go straight to Sophie.
Kia ora, councillors. So I'm Sophie Mears. I'm the Acting Manager of Governance and Compliance. So I'm here to talk to you about the new interest register that's going to be included in every council meeting agenda. So you'll see there's the one attached to this report, so that will be included in every meeting going forward. Also, we will include a similar register for all community board meetings and meetings as well, so that's right up front there for councillors to see. So these registers are essentially a snapshot of our master register that the governance team is managing, which collects all the data that councillors have submitted with their declarations. And I'll keep this pretty brief. There's essentially two key takeaways, is that this is not one and done. Essentially, we've got the initial declarations from you, and that meets the LGA requirements, but also we need further information from some councillors on their declarations, and also some councillors haven't completed their declarations yet, so we need to get those. And also there's wider obligations under the Code of Conduct, additional information that we will need from you, so the governance team will be in touch about that. We'll also be looking to publish the register on the council website, obviously not including the private information where we've indicated that, but so that the public have transparency around these interests as well. So the other key takeaway as well is our advice around interest is, if in doubt, disclose, whether it's pecuniary or not. If it's not disclosed to the team, we can't advise you on those conflicts. So making sure that you're letting us know about those interests so that we can advise you appropriately. There's a number of different pieces of legislation that govern interest. So the declarations that you've completed already are the Local Government Act declarations, but bearing in mind that your interests and conflicts of interest are also governed by the Local Authority Members' Interest Act, and also the Code of Conduct as well. So making sure you're mindful of those, and also just reminding you of the serious penalties if your declarations are incorrect, or if you breach the rules around contracting or participation in breach of the Local Authorities Members' Interest Act as well. So there's those penalties, but also as well, it might jeopardise a council decision if there's participation in a decision where there's a conflict of interest. So I guess those are the key points.
Thanks, Sophie. I'll go. Are there any questions on the report in front of us today? Tracy.
I just wanted to bring up, if it could be minuted, that I actually submitted the item about Lincoln Voice Incorporated on the 7th of November, and it was omitted in the first publication. I just know that there's somebody out there, a constituent, to whom that's really important.
Thank you, Tracy, and noted. I think the important thing to note is that the schedule is, I think, a rolling front as you work your way through your term on council. Things come up, and it is actually just to let the team know of any changes that you have in that, and it can be updated. So there being no other questions, happy to put the resolution to include the interest register and appoint the chief executive as the holder of the register. So moved Tracy, seconded Elizabeth. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call it carried. Thank you. Okay. Tab 11. Acquisition of land required for the Rolleston State Highway 1 access, local arterial road upgrades project under Public Works Act. So welcome to the table, Rob Allen and Andrew Maisie. I will hand over to you to talk about the paper in front of us.
Kia ora koutou. The report before Council today relates to the acquisition of land required for the Rolleston Local Arterial Road Upgrade Project. This project is a critical component of Council's long-term plan and is closely aligned with Wakakatahi NZTA State Highway 1 Rolleston access improvements. Together, these upgrades will deliver a safer, more resilient and efficient transport network for Rolleston, supporting both community growth and the industrial zone's freight needs. The report seeks Council's approval to commence formal negotiations with affected landowners pursuant to Section 17 of the Public Works Act 1981, and if necessary, to initiate the compulsory acquisition process by serving notices of desire to acquire land under Section 18. It also recommends authorising entry for survey and investigation purposes under Sections 110 and 111 of the Act. These steps are essential to secure the land required for constructing a new roundabout at Walkers and Two Chain Roads and realigning Two Chain Wards and Jones's Roads near the rail crossing. This project has a total budget of $20 million, with NZTA co-funding 51%, approximately $10.2 million, under the National Land Transport Programme. The remaining 49% will be funded through rates and development contributions. Timely land acquisition is critical to retain NZTA funding and meet construction targets for 2026-27. Thank you. Andrew Maisie is here to answer any questions on the roading side and funding side, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the process under the Public Works Act.
Cool. Thank you, team. We will go for questions, and so first up is Elizabeth.
I'll go.
Not first up, Samuel.
Hey, what's the reasoning for us having to offset it for the smooth out of the road alignment? It looks obscure to me that we're dragging it.
You mean it,
drag and drop it to the.
You mean at that the rail crossing there?
Mm.
Yeah. So what? There's two things going on here. Basically, we're changing the priority away from Wards Road, linking on to Jones Road, to give the priority to traffic coming in from that connection from State Highway 1 and the new roundabout into the Rolleston Industrial Zone. So basically, we're smoothing out those trucks being able to access or come along Two Chain Road through onto Jones Road and into that wider industrial area. It also means that we can then bend, as it were, or realign Wards Road down and create a T intersection, which is much safer. So in general terms, we're making the whole situation a lot safer and a lot more effective in terms of establishing that heavy traffic freight route through from State Highway 1.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Rose.
So just to understand that this needs to be undertaken to be able to take the heavy transport through for the bridge the overpass construction. So this would have to go prior to that, and that's one of the time constraints. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. It's we expect NZTA are going to be needing to use the 2 Chain Jones Road as a detour route at times when they are constructing the flyover and things like that. So it's all part and parcel of that being worked into their program.
So that's one of the time critical steps that you've
Yes, exactly. And as the report details, and Rod mentioned it before, this is a very tight collaboration between NZTA and the council in terms of making sure their upgrades align with ours so that we get a network in place that can function right from the get-go.
Yeah, thank you. It is a horrible intersection.
Yeah.
The railway line there is part of the 20 million, part of this railway line levelling, smoothing. Is that council's cost?
Yes, it is, and we have to follow a very strict regime with Kiwi Rail in terms of how we work and any alterations to that rail crossing. And we've been working on that aspect for probably the last 12, 18 months with Kiwi Rail. And we have to follow a very strict way of dealing with them and how they want that crossing to obviously work in with all our road realignments. So that's a key part.
So the responsibility is with the roading, so no funding from Kiwi Rail?
No, there isn't. Basically, they take the view that they were there first and we're coming along later.
Okay. Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Going through. You've talked about entering negotiations, but there was something in here, and I can't find it right now, but there was a mention of finding savings. Was that for this one? No, it might be next report, might be the Jones Road paving improvements, perhaps. Okay. Right, so I was just a wee bit confused looking at the intersection picture on, here we go, image 5. So image 5, the little arrow in the corner is where the roundabout's going. I just wondered if maybe you could give us a simpleton's key a little bit next time, because I look at that and it looks like a giant car park with hedges in the middle. Absolutely no idea working out what you're trying to say from that.
I think all I can say is, Elizabeth, is that's the ODP, that plan that sits in the district plan. So we've basically just uplifted that from the district plan and put it into the report. So nothing, more or less than that.
Okay, but in terms of all the feeders that are coming, the routes that are coming into the intersection, it would have just maybe been a little bit easier for us simpletons to work out what the high importance of the roundabout is, given if you're using that drive through on 2 Chains Road at the moment, it doesn't look like it's significantly important. I've been here long enough so I know the plans, but these new councillors don't understand quite the significance of those upgrades.
No, thank you for that point, and I'm happy to, if you wish, to explain it a little bit further, if that would help.
Well, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't think so. I think that you've detailed it a lot in this report, if anything, and given a really good overview of what the need is for this. And I think when things are in the district plan, they are provisional drawings, not necessarily actual plans. It's effectively a concept where things might sit. And so I think that actually the drawings that you provided give us really good context to the layout and what is needed in land acquisition, which is what the paper is detailing, is the need to negotiate land acquisition for those spaces. Are there, Reece?
sorry, one I did forget. So the 20 million does allow for the Tuwater ponding area to be addressed at the end of that intersection. There's in the reporting in that location, which is actually in what was just discussed in image 5, there is a wet zone that's down at that railway corridor intersection, and that wet zone has not been investigated. I haven't had the opportunity to get on there by the look of this report. 20 million to do this intersection. It seems fairly expensive, and I guess it's the Kiwi Rail side of it. But does it allow for that, addressing that water issue?
If I understand your question correctly, just to confirm, the 20 million covers both intersections.
Mm-hmm.
And for, are you talking about the 2 Chain and Walkers Road intersection?
I'm talking about the two, yes, that is Walker and Jones, at that junction of
Yep.
2 Chain and Jones and Ward.
Yep.
There's a wet zone there.
Yep. So that is being factored into the detailed design, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sophie?
Yeah, just to say that, so image 5 is a private development. So those wet zones, the developer will have to deal with them as and when they develop that patch of land. It's not on the road. It's not on the road itself, and would not come at our cost. Well, it shouldn't come at our cost because it's an industrial development. It shouldn't be because it's not for us to do.
I think we'll go to Andrew.
Yeah, and thanks, Sophie, for providing some clarification. Anything that sits within the road reserve will be our responsibility. Anything outside of that will be the developer's responsibility.
Okay. Are there any further questions on the report in front of us? There being none, the resolutions are on the screen, and so it's resolution A through E. I'll look for a mover for those. Sarah and a seconder. John. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call it carried. Thank you. Very good. And moving on to tab 12, which is funding for Jones Road Pavement Improvements Project. So we'll keep Andrew at the table and invite Murray and Yue up to talk through the paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. Today we're presenting the paper Funding for Jones Road Pavement Improvements. Joining me is Yue, our Transport Asset Planning Manager, and Andrew Maisie, our Strategic Transport Lead. This report is a positive story. Our staff have successfully secured additional co-funding from NZTA, and this achievement means that we can deliver more for our community without the need to increase Council's budgets or rate take. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Yue, who will run you through the details of this opportunity.
Thank you, Maury, and kia ora, councillors. This paper involves a reallocation of some council funds to enable delivery of the Jones Road Pavement Improvement Project in the current financial year. The paper first provided background of funding of council's transportation activities, including NZTA subsidy and related processes. There are a few broad categories of subsidized activities, such as maintenance operations and renewals, low-cost, low-risk projects, and major projects. Council staff continuously work with NZTA to maximize co-funding for Council's transportation activities, which helps maximize community outcomes we can deliver for ratepayers. The Rolleston Access Local Road Package of projects is a key piece of Council's capital works during the 24 to 27 period. We have recently been successful in securing NZTA co-funding under the low cost, low risk targeted fund program for a few projects, which includes Jones Road pavement improvement and the Two Chain Road widening project in this paper. This does require that the Jones Road project be delivered as an improvement project and have its local share explicitly budgeted under Council's Transport Improvement Program. This local share can come from the partial reallocation of Council funds previously committed to the Two Chain widening project. In the Transport Improvement Program approved by Council on the 13th of November 2024, Two Chain widening is fully funded by Council at $2.25 million. Now, NZTA can provide a subsidy of $1.02 million on Two Chain widening, which means $1.02 million in committed Council funds can be partially reallocated to cover the 49% local share needed on the $1.8 million project cost for the Jones Road pavement improvements. In this way, we achieve more bang for the buck for ratepayers, and this helps address infrastructure deficit in the district. So together with Andrew, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Yue. I think, like you say, it's a bit of a good news story if we can make what we do have go a lot further in securing that co-funding and acknowledging that we didn't actually get all the co-funding that we originally needed right back at the start of the National Land Transport Program. So I think, thank you for getting in there and getting these projects in ahead to try and secure extra funding with NZTA. We'll go for questions, and first up is Elizabeth.
Yeah, just trying to get my head around, there wasn't really any visuals with this about the pavement. What do you mean by pavement? Are you talking about a Jones Road footpath for pedestrians or for cyclists?
Sorry, if there's an English UK usage of pavement. No, I'm not referring sidewalk as pavement. It is the structure below the surface in the road. So in a road, in the carriageway section, we have subgrade. Then we have pavement on top of it, usually made of aggregates. Then we have surfacing either of chip seal or AC. So. We are talking about pavement that is below the surface.
Got you. Thank you for that.
Cool. Any other questions on this paper? There being none, we will put the resolutions on screen in front of you, which is A through F. Is there a mover for the resolutions that you have in your papers, John? Is there a seconder for this? Aaron? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Call it carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just wonder whether we discuss public forum actions before we move into PX.
Happy to do so, Lydia. Councillor, so the proposed response, if you're comfortable that I answered Sue Boyd's questions around what will be addressed and consulted on in the annual plan, then what I'm proposing to do is that we just write back on how best to submit on the Orion investment proposal and what Council is thinking about doing, if you're comfortable on that. With regards to Mr. Rakovich, in a way very similar to what Sue raised in terms of the proposed motion, and I know Mr. Rakovich has sent that to governance, and a large number of those elements will be addressed on the 17th and then again on the 21st in workshop, and then will be brought back to Council and the community for awareness around the draft annual plan to be consulted on. That will then be hearings, deliberations, and you will make the final determination in June. So I think that would be my response back to Mr. Rakovich, is just outlining how we're going to essentially address his proposed notice of motion, and what those times look like. So if you're comfortable with that. The Castle Hill response, I checked in with the crew afterwards, and I think just a significant contribution from that community to a range of elements, from biodiversity to pest control and to energy. And I think acknowledging the thanks to the staff, and also so the response will be an acknowledgement back to that community group for all the efforts that they're undertaking. And just a reminder and an encouragement around the pipeline of funding that Council provides, and how we might continue to make that easy for communities like that to apply for our community funds. And finally, just a quick thank you to the sister cities for their work. There is a couple of follow-ups. One is around a bit of a progress update on the Levi Park, and so I will seek that advice from staff. And basically just take the elements of what they've put in their last slide and respond back to that from the Chief Executive. So if councillors are happy, that is what I'm proposing to do with the public forum.
Cool. Happy to take any feedback or questions on the actions received there. John.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for the prompt response and the way that there is now a good progress in interacting and getting information back. So thank you and well done, and thank you also for your team.
Elizabeth.
I'm just wondering if we could potentially ask Alison if she could send us any more information around the opportunity for the Ganzhou trip and the costings, expected costings.
Yes, I can add that to the correspondence.
Cool. Any other feedback there on public forum? There being none, I think that gives fairly clear steer on actions needed. Councillors, we've reached the end of our public papers, so I will look for a mover to move into PX. John, and a seconder, Denise. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye.